It's good to see you. Let's get started with checking in using the 8 core feelings on the floor. Just let me know how things have been going. Connect the last session to this one.
Okay, well, I'm feeling a little shame and discouraged. I guess it's sad, and I was kind of wanting to talk to you about that today.
Okay. All right, so we can definitely talk about that. Let's get started with going over our agenda. So let's look at our agenda for today for supervision. We need to follow up with the client that we discussed in last week's supervision. We also need to talk about this week's sessions and identify one high and low from your perspective. We need to review the reading assignment from last week and talk about the feelings that you identified just now, the SAD, in your check-in. Which one of those things feels the most important to you right now? And we'll start there.
Well, I guess the session we talked about last week is one of the sessions that I'm questioning myself about, so we can start there.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I'm the right therapist for this guy. I can't get him to open up, and I don't feel like I'm making any progress with him. I tried asking him open-ended questions like we discussed, and he still just gives one-word answers. I'm not sure what to do next, and sometimes when I ask him questions, he literally doesn't answer at all.
Yeah. So what are you thinking, or what comes up for you when this happens in these sessions?
Well, I start thinking, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't even be a counselor.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to do when my client doesn't lead the session. I just start thinking like, again, maybe I shouldn't be here. I'm not sure I'm going to be any good at this or not.
Yeah. Well, first, I'm really thankful that you're sharing it. And, we can't really deal with it until you let me know how you're feeling, or that you just kind of name it and verbalize it. Also want to normalize that these feelings are really normal for most new therapists. That's just how they feel at some point. Sometimes when we get lost or we're unsure, we forget about that, and this is a process, and that what our role in it is. And so I want you to remember also it's your first month as an associate, and you are really at the beginning stages of learning how to work this process and to know what you're supposed to do in situations like that. And so it's really, really normal. And I want you just to be able to consider that, first of all, this could be about your client. And so it could be that your client's stuck. And so that's good information for you to be curious about. And it gives you some direction on even how to help them understand if they're stuck. And that's part of the process. Also, another thing that can happen is that we can personalize it. And if we start personalizing it, then we make their issue about us, and that we are supposed to fix it somehow. And do either one of those fit? Or maybe I forgot to say, maybe that plays into some of your own insecurities, and that could be coming up in the session. So I want you to think if either one of those things fits, or if it could be something entirely different.
I think it's about me and my insecurity. I feel so responsible for my clients, and I feel like if they don't get better, it's because I'm not doing a good job as I should be doing with them.
Yeah.
And that's when I start making up stories how another counselor would be so much better, and maybe I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, again, that happens a lot, in the beginning. And so I think it could be really helpful for you to do some reading to build some confidence and to realign yourself with what your role in the therapeutic process is. And so there's a book called Let's Start with Becoming a Therapist. The book is called Let's Becoming a Therapist. What do I say? And why? It's by Bender and Messner, and I'll get that to you before you leave. I'll give you a piece of paper that has that on it, so you can look at it and find that and see if that might be helpful. I want you to start reading that. And how does it feel to, let's say, set a goal for 2 weeks of finishing that, taking in mind what's going on with your current schedule?
Okay. 2 weeks may be a little tough since I have a lot of scheduled traveling plans, but I think I can do it for the next 3 for sure.
Okay, great. That sounds great. I think that sounds like a good plan. Why don't we agree to start discussing the first 4 chapters next week during supervision? That'll give you some accountability to keep you on track and make sure you don't just kind of push it all to the end and have that pressure.
Great. That's definitely doable. I want to talk to you and ask you a question about another session from last week. So,
Okay.
My client has a diagnosis of OCD.
Okay.
Came in and told me that she was having these intrusive thoughts about driving off the road.
Okay.
And I immediately felt myself getting anxious and feeling like I didn't know what to do to make sure that she's safe. I don't think she's suicidal, but what if I made a mistake? You know, what should I have done?
Yeah. Well, let's start with what you did do, and what did you do to ensure that your client wasn't actively suicidal?
I didn't do anything. I just assumed she wasn't, since
Okay.
she's had a history of intrusive thoughts with her OCD.
Yeah, so you just immediately went to that's what it is instead of investigating. Okay. So do you think that it could be that you could have used this time to utilize maybe an assessment or to evaluate her risk of any real suital ideation?
Yeah, I could have used the Beck Depression Scale or the PHQ-9.
Yeah.
That would have given me a more definite answer as to what she was experiencing, if it truly was OCD, or if it was thoughts of possible suicidal ideation.
Okay. So yeah, both of those assessments would have been helpful. Yeah.
I think maybe the anxiety around the fear of having to face suicidal ideation with one of my clients keeps me from asking the hard questions that may lead to me not knowing what to do if I have a client who truly is suicidal.
Absolutely, and that can be one of the hardest things, and actually most important things for us to be really careful about. Client safety is always number one, as a therapist. So I want to go over with you again the policy for handling suicidal clients and doing everything that's necessary to keep clients, as safe as possible when we find ourselves in these situations. So I think this would also give you some anxiety relief, knowing that you're prepared and that you have resources, including contacting me when necessary if ever you feel like you're unsure about a client safety that would be considered an emergency. And I always want you to know you're welcome and it's necessary, and I expect it, for you to proceed by letting me know.
Well, that helps a lot to remember that I can talk to you, consult you, and that I have the resources available that I'll need to, and I'm going to go put the resource page and then information page that you gave me. I'm going to take that and keep it in my bag and take it with me. That way, I'll always have something here or with me or at the other side where I work whenever I need it.
That's a good plan. In fact, you may want to put a file together that has both digital resources and printed resources. That way, like you said, when you're here or where you're at your other site, wherever you go, you have those resources, including like hotlines and things like that.
Yeah, I feel a lot of relief just knowing that I'm not alone in this and that I don't have to have all the answers, especially when it comes to client safety. And so you think I should reach out to my client just to confirm that they're not experiencing any suicidal ideation currently? Yeah,
I do. In fact, I think, one possible thing that you could do is reach out to them with an assessment via email or through the client portal, depending on where your client is from this site, from RLC, or if it's at a different site. And that way you can see you can ask how they're doing since their last session. And that'll just give you another way to follow up and make sure that the client's safe and that there isn't even risk from last time or new risk that's showing up.
Well, I guess I could just call them or send them an email, but I'm going to send an assessment today.
Yeah, and, that sounds like a great idea.
That feels like it's the safest thing for my client, and I know it'll also lower the anxiety that I've been feeling since our last session.
What assessment do you think that you'll send?
I think I'll send the PHQ-9 and the YBOCS.
Okay.
The short form.
Yeah.
Both of those through the client portal so that they can complete the assessments, and then that way they'll be a part of a client record and I can access them as soon as she finishes those. And, just make sure no other intervention is warranted. Yeah, that's a great plan. Look how well you're able to think through that. Even though your anxiety over this is high, you're really thinking through what's best for the client and able to come up with really good ideas and good ways to combat some of the things that maybe you feel like you should have done in the last session. So before we close our session, two things. I want you just to remember you're not alone in this, like you really aren't.
And is there anything else that you need from me concerning this client or any others before we end our session?
You know, I think that's it. I just feel hopeful that the things we talked about today and reading the assignment that you gave me is going to help me be more prepared for my sections.
Yeah, I think so
this
too.
week.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've got this, and I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, if there's anything else that you need to know before then, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. I sure will.
Okay, great.